world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is October 1st, 2013. It is the Tuesday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I have a bunch of different things I want to go over with you all tonight. First and foremost, I want to get into, before we get into the news or any updates on any stories or me tearing anything apart or anything like that, I want to get into two subjects really quick. One is our Facebook fan page and how views and posts and stuff are being blocked, and it's not just ours, but it's all different fan pages. I'm going to really quick show you how to get around it. Anybody that you follow on Facebook, a lot of people use social media as a way to follow news and get information, and they are blocking posts. So I'm going to show you how to make sure you're getting all the stuff that you're supposed to get. A lot of people have said, "Oh, I don't get your stuff from Federal Jack in the feeds anymore," and I've seen other pages and other sites having the same issue. So I know what it is, and I'm going to go over all that with you so you can make sure that you get your feeds from whatever alternative media source. And the other thing I want to go over is the changes and updates that I actually have been working on to Federal Jack itself. If you go over to federaljack.com, that's my website, right? You go right to the front page, loads up. You'll notice that when you first used to go there back in the day, and up to about 2 weeks ago, there was the images, there would be an image rotator, but it was smaller than the one that's up there currently. Like if you go right now, the rotator is much wider. Next to it was a widget for our downloadable information archive. I will put that widget back up on the front page. It's just going to be moved over to the sidebar, but it will be back up in a day or so. You still can get to the download section right at the very top of the website. Up at the top of the header, the first header bar, it says Home, About, Download section, Video Store, Radio Show Chats, Radio Show Archives. Well, the third one, the download section, that'll bring you to the downloadable info vault. And you can still download all the stuff from the JFK archive and all that stuff. So you can still get there right from the front page. It's just that big widget, we moved it off because we had to put a new slider in there. The slider that's in there now, it looks a little weird because some of the pictures and stuff are off. I have to go in and I have to adjust a few things and change a few things, and for each page now that we adjusted the slider, and I will be doing that. But I know the past couple weeks it's the front page has kind of changed a little bit, so I want to just go over this stuff really quick because navigating the website, for the newer people, who don't know it, and this is the first time you're going to the site, well, then you're just going to learn how to use the front page really quick. But for the older people that have gone there, and now you go there and you're like, hey, wait a minute, something's off. I'm just covering this so everybody understands. And I rarely ever discuss the site, so I figure I might as well do it before I forget. In fact, I wrote it down in big red letters on my list of things I wanted to discuss tonight. So if you go to the front page, you'll notice the slider is huge now. Again, everything will be fixed with the images and stuff in there in the next day or so, but that's going to be, the same thing. There'll be articles in there, and then you'll have the featured story section and everything else. Just it looks a little bit bigger. The downloadable Info Vault page widget will be up on the sidebar. I'll get it up there in the next day or so, and I'll get it up right towards the top there, right around the visitor map area, so people can get to it, and they can see it right upon the page first loading, because that's an important place for people to go, an important destination on the site. You'll notice the widget over in the upper right-hand corner for the radio show has been adjusted to reflect the new times. And if you click on the part that says Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye, it opens up Truth Frequency's pop-up player with a little mini chat. If you click the red button where it says click here to listen live and chat on the air, that brings you to the federaljack.com chat page for Down the Rabbit Hole. And the green button will bring you to the archive page, as it always has. Also, if you take your cursor and you go up to the header bar where it says radio show chats and you highlight it, you'll see a bunch of different radio shows up there. At least 4 of them are on truthfrequencyradio.com. There's 2 up there that are from 2 of my other friends' radio shows. You guys might recognize. One of them is Johnny English, and the other one is my friend Ken Hildebrand, who does a show called The Information Nation. If you guys still listen to them or like to listen to them, I put chat pages and listen live pages up for them as well, because they're my friends. But I made a page for the Freedom Link over on Federal Jack, a listen live page for Change the Channel, a listen live page for the Energy Show, and of course the one for Down the Rabbit Hole. So there's just another way for people to listen, basically, and it drives everybody to Truth Frequency, which is where everything is hosted from. Chris Gio and Cherie Gio gave us an awesome place to do our broadcasts from. You can go check their website out, truthfrequencyradio.com. Don't forget to go over there. Give them some love. Anyway, that's about it for Federal Jack. I thank everybody for being patient the past couple of weeks. It's been under construction since we got attacked. We had some issues. We had the site down, and since we had it down, there was a few things I wanted to do. So we kind of used the time to our advantage, as it were. And it's now. It's been back up and running for a couple of weeks, but now it's back up at 100%. The other thing I did neglect, and I'll throw this in really quick. If you scroll down on the front page, the basic layout of the website has remained the same, where it's got the featured stories, and then underneath it, it's got double columns next to each other of information, like U.S. news or politics or whatever. Well, we moved a couple of those columns around. So we removed the economics one from the front page. You can still get to it up at the top, the header bar. It's one of the categories. You can click on it, but you only have a certain amount of categories that you want to put on the front page, because you don't want to have too many, because then the page would be super, super long. So you put like the most, obviously a smart webmaster would put the most hit stuff on the front, and then the busiest stuff on the front, and then you can still access the rest of it from the header bar and drop-down menus, which is the case with Federal Jack. So we moved a few things around. Politics is no longer yet next to the U.S. news column. It's all the way down at the bottom, and we replaced the empty slot there with DTRH with Popeye. That's the section title, or the category title rather. It says DTRH with Popeye. You can also get to that category up in the header bar. You'll see right next to 9/11 Archives. It says it. That is where all of my shows are listed. So when I post my shows on Federal Jack as a post, I post it with a write-up and then links to the YouTube archive, the embedded MP3 player, links to Unbound, everything, to Twitter, Facebook. Each one of those is listed under DTRH with Popeye as a category. So I made it easier for all the listeners to go and pay attention and listen to the shows, because the important thing is the information, And if it's hard, and I know that this is a problem people have, if it's hard for the listener to get to the stuff, they get frustrated and they give up. And especially if it takes, 5 or 6 or 10 clicks to get there, or, something's wrong with the page or this or that. So, or you have to jump through hoops to find it on the website. Believe me, I understand. It pisses me off when I have to look for stuff. So I tried to make it as user-friendly as I possibly could. As user-friendly as I possibly could. So if you go on, right on the front page now, one of the columns, the first column next to U.S. News is DTRH with Popeye. That's got all the shows. And they're listed, obviously, from the newest post all the way to the oldest one that I've posted. So, and sometimes when I post them on Federal Jack, I post them a little bit out of order because I don't always render the shows in order for my archive section. So don't think that the DTRH section is labeled or listed in a chronological order of when the shows were done. Sometimes the dates are a bit off, it jumps, but they're all there. So, and you can always go to the download page and just download anything, or anything from my Truth Frequency days here. You can go over to truthfrequencyradio.com and download all that stuff there as well. So that's it. And as I told you last week, I did update the archive page, made it much more user-friendly. If you go to the archive page, you'll notice that instead of having just all the shows listed on one big page, I broke it down by year. So there's when you scroll to the archive, when you go to the archive page and you scroll down to the bottom, which is the page itself is short now. It just has a hyperlink. It says, Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye, 2011, 2012, 2013. Each one of those is a link to a corresponding page for that year's archives. And there's one for special broadcasts or guest appearances and stuff I've done. So it's all there. It's a lot easier for you guys to navigate. I figured the easier I made it for people to navigate, the much more likely it would be that people would want to go and listen to the information. I mean, it's not about me. It's about the information that I present, and hopefully I present it in a manner to people that makes them want to go do the research on their own. And that's the whole reason for this. So, bazillion new different ways to listen to the radio show. Again, you can listen live, chat there, news, everything. So the site's back up 100%. I just got to, like I said, the images look a little vakakta right now. I got to play with that later. But right now, everything, the website's back up and running. We're good to go. We'll see how long before we get attacked again. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to talk about was Facebook and how they're blocking people's fan pages. So this isn't only for Federal Jack's fan page. I'm going to use the Federal Jack fan page as an example as I'm walking you guys through this really quick verbally. And if you go to Facebook and you do it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But this goes for any page. So I want you to, whatever alternative media outlet you follow, no matter who it is, go to their page and do this for every single one of them. Otherwise, you're likely that you're probably getting blocked from their stuff, and people wonder, I haven't seen you post in a while. I've had people on Facebook say, it's been a while since you posted. I'm glad you're posting again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I post every day. So, and then I noticed this, and then I actually noticed another page had taken the time to do a couple screenshots, and they put a meme together showing this. So I grabbed the meme and I put it up on Federal Jack on the fan page so everybody could get an idea of what's going on. And now I want to verbally tell you all because Facebook is blocking people. Okay, so first, we all know that back in the day, if you had 10,000 followers on your Facebook fan page and you posted something, chances are most of them, if not all of them, would see it in their timeline eventually, or it would at least appear in their timeline. Well, Facebook, once they went public, that got cut short because suddenly, posting something, you only got like 10% of your viewers seeing it, and then now they want you to pay money to promote your page because they realized that there was a lot of promotions going on via social media, and hey, why not try to be greedy scumbags and try to make money off of it, because that's the way people are, right? These rich bastards. Anyway, and it's also a way of silencing the alternative media, who a lot of people are citizen journalists and can't afford to pay $60 or $100 just so your post gets seen by people, which is disgusting. Anyway, so besides that, they're also using filtering options. And Facebook, every time they update, they add another filter. And see, it's slick. It's very behind your back. They don't, they do in-your-face censorship. I won't say they won't do that, but they do updates, and then you don't know that there's some sort of censorship going on. You don't know that there's some sort of change to the system, because they add 5 or 6 different levels of what you have to click on now. So it's not as easy to get stuff as it was. Even though the people who run the pages went out and actually did the effort and the work to get the listeners and the people to give them the likes, now Facebook is doing everything to block you. So we'll use the FedJack fan page right now on Facebook as an example. Go to Facebook if you're on Facebook, okay? And you can do this in the archives later on whenever. So you're on Facebook, type in FED space JACK, FedJack, and that'll bring up Federal Jack, the fan page. So you bring up the federaljack.com fan page, and boom, it comes up. And you will see right at the top there is a button right underneath where it says federaljack.com, and it's my banner picture. Right underneath it, you'll see the liked button. Now, chances are, if you're listening to the radio show and you have Facebook, you've probably liked my fan page. If not, feel free to do so. Once it's liked, you're going to hover the mouse cursor over the liked button. And this goes for all Facebook fan pages, no matter what political affiliation you are, no matter what religious affiliation you are, no matter whatever affiliation you are, whatever fan pages you follow are being censored. Facebook's doing it to everybody. Again, we're all in the same boat, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? So it's not like it's just one person here or one person there. No, we're all in the same boat. So, hover over the liked button where it says like or liked. Once you've liked that page, hover over it, and you will see a little list come down. And it'll say get notifications, show in news feeds, settings, add to interest lists, and unlike. Make sure you click get notifications, and when you click it, it'll get dark in boldface print, and a little check mark will appear next to it. And make sure you put show in news feed, and then there'll be a little check mark next to it. Now, when you click show in news feed, okay, it'll pop up. You'll see it turn black. When you click on get notifications, okay, it'll do the same thing. Underneath that, there's the settings button. If you click on the settings button, you'll see it'll say most updates, only important, or all updates. Make sure you click all updates and then hit go back. If you don't, it'll automatically set it to like some updates, I think, or most updates. And what happens is, like, however the counter works, we'll just, and as an example, because I'm not sure exactly how their little algorithm works, but say you post 10 things, maybe 1 or 2 things out of those 10 posts will show up in everybody's news feeds. Or it might only show 1 in one news feed and 1 in someone else's. You know what I mean? So you have to make sure, if you want to get information, this doesn't mean that this is a life-ending thing, but if you want to, let me rephrase it, if you want to use Facebook to get your information, you have to do this. If you don't use Facebook, then you don't have to pay attention to the last 5 minutes of the broadcast. But if you use Facebook at all to get any information from any alternative media source in any way, shape, or form, you're going to have to do this. It's pretty messed up, by the way, that they go behind the scenes, and when they do updates, they keep adding these little different things. I mean, the fact that you have to pick, most of the stuff, some of the stuff, or all of the stuff. If you're picking to get updates, then you want updates, right? But see how what they do is they keep adding minute levels to it. And most people are used to choice A or choice B, right? So the fact that they'll click on it and they won't even realize they have to, because there's no instruction manual. Is there an instruction manual that says if you like a page, you must now hover over it and click get notifications and show a new? No. I haven't seen an instruction manual yet or a little thing pop up. Once in a while they have these annoying pop-up tutorials, but not that. And if it does, they probably make it so annoying that the person gets frustrated and turns it off and doesn't even read it. And they know that. So it's just another way Facebook is filtering your information. And if you're going to use the website, which I only use it to promote the show and pass on info, but if you're going to use it, be wary that, not only are they monitoring you and they're scumbags and all the other shenanigans, but every time they do an update and they add another filter or feature, you have to go double check and make sure that your settings and stuff are the same and that you're getting the information from the people that you've subscribed to, for lack of a better term. Facebook is used by a large portion of the public to, I mean, yeah, they like to put pictures of their cats or their, what food they're eating or whatever, or their friends or whatever, put everything on Facebook, but they also like to use it to get information and learn, at least find links from alternative news websites that are on Facebook, like Federal Jack. And when, like there's one page, the InfoWar Social Networking Coalition, there's like 100 and something people that are content creators on the page, myself included, and we can submit stuff to the page and it gets posted up on the page and it's got like 40-something thousand likes. I noticed the other day that normally when you post something back in the day, you would post something to that page and it would get 5, 10, 15, 20,000 hits, right? At least views. Doesn't mean you get that many likes, but at least 20,000 people would have been exposed to that article. Maybe half of them would have read it, right? If not more. Now, a page with 40,000 likes, a post on that page gets 300 views, if it's lucky, struggles to get a little over 300 views in 24 hours. That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. If they were actually seeing it, if it wasn't getting blocked, then it would, just by natural amount of followers, it would have more views. So that goes to show you they're blocking. I mean, again, the page has over 40,000 likes, which means 40,000 people at least should get whatever you post to it. And you're lucky sometimes if 300 or 400 people. Now, sometimes you'll post like a meme or something and it will go viral and it'll get a couple thousand hits. But it goes to show you, even with Federal Jack, I have almost 10,000 followers on Federal Jack, or likes, or whatever you call them, on the fan page. And when I used to post stuff to the fan page, it would, if there were 8,000 followers at the time, all 8,000 people got it. If there were 9,000 at the time, all 9,000 got it. Now you post something, and I'm lucky if 300 or 400 people get it. And that's with sharing it all over the place. So they've locked Facebook down. I'm sure Twitter is probably going to experience, if not already experiencing it, where people don't see things in their timeline or, from certain people. So we have to actively go out and, you have to look for it. I don't think waiting, even though what I just told you about changing the stuff for your settings and stuff, somebody made a good point on one of the pages that I posted the picture to. They said, well, why don't you just do the old-fashioned thing and just go to that fan page if that's what you want to, see the news for that day. And honestly, maybe that's what everybody has to start doing, is stop relying on the news feed and go to, write a list of, take a piece of paper and tape it to your computer monitor. 5, 10, 20 different pages that you go to for your information, whatever it is. And then, I know it's a pain in the butt, but visit them. See, the thing is, a lot of people use mobile devices. This is where they look forward into the future and they understand stuff. This is how YouTube does a lot of blocking too. A lot of people use mobile devices. Now, if you use a mobile device like an iPad or something like that, often it doesn't really discriminate. The Facebook the app, it views it as a mobile device. So it's a mobile device app. It's not like a phone app versus an iPad app. And a lot of times those things work off of the news feed. You can look off of, you can look up a fan page and go to the fan page and stuff. But a lot of times in the mobile apps, like I've seen my wife's, it'll let her know when someone messages something or puts something up. It puts a notification on her phone. So I don't have it on my phone. I refuse to put it on. So if you open it up, most of the information is coming through the person's feed onto the phone because it's a shrunk down mobile version of it. And YouTube does the same thing. Now, here's what will happen. YouTube will have certain videos, if for whatever reason they get a bug up their butt, video won't play on mobile devices. Now, if it doesn't play on mobile devices, it's not just cell phones. It's any mobile device. So any tablet, any phone, any device like that you can stream YouTube to. The YouTube televisions, I guarantee you, if it won't work on a mobile device, it won't play on YouTube TV. You'd be forced to go to the computer. What they're doing is they're making it so that instead of just making it not play in a computer, which they do, their new model seems to be, we're going to put it on every other platform, including computers, and just make your video not playable on every platform but computers. And what happens then? It's almost like they're making it antiquated. Well, Facebook kind of does the same thing with your fan page. Instead of encouraging people to go directly to the fan page, or in like YouTube's case, they would, instead of encouraging them to go to YouTube on their computer, right, or streaming it from their computer to their TV, they'll get people TVs that have YouTube built into it. But then I guarantee you it'll be like the mobile version, and certain things will get blocked. So same thing with the news feed on Facebook. they get people to rely on the news feed, and then they start to censor what comes into your feed, right? So the only way to deal with it is either go, every once in a while check your settings and see if they added something new or whenever you find out they updated Facebook, go check your settings, right? But this is the pain in the ass. What I taught you about tonight, what I told you about going and switching the filter and this and that and doing all that, you have to do that for every fan page. You see, they make it so damn difficult that people, even if they do it to 3 or 4 pages, what happens if you have 25 or 30 pages? The average person is not going to sit there and go through all those pages and go through. It only takes 30 seconds to do what I told you to do. But how many people are going to sit there and do that to every fan page? How many people can remember to do that to every fan page? I mean, it's unrealistic to think that every person's going to do it, right? So they know that that's one way to affect a level of censorship. And yeah, I mean, there will be, I'm sure they calculate people like me opening my mouth and saying something, and then everybody going, okay, and doing something. But then by that time, more people start waking up to it. What happens? They add another level of censorship, some way, shape, or form, right? You got to pay or whatever. You got to be friends with Mark Zuckerberg to send someone a message now, or and I don't mean friends on Facebook. I mean you got to be like personal friends. So there's like 3 people that'll be able to send personal messages to anybody without being paid. Without paying $5. Maybe that'll be their new thing. See, social media is allowing everybody to interact. The internet is about the free form and free flow of communication, and they want to stop that. They want to stop you communicating with other human beings. Why is that? We need to ask ourselves that. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So, interesting story came across my desk past couple days. Something that I've, to a certain level, not as bad, experienced myself, and this is why I always tell people never to deal with interns. But Adam Kokesh, everybody knows who Kokesh is. If you don't, Adam, I guess you could say, podcaster. I don't know if, he used to be a radio show host, strictly radio, but his podcast was video and audio, so I guess you could say podcast. Activist, former Marine, well known. He's the guy, in case you don't realize who I'm talking about, he's the guy that loaded a shotgun in Washington, D.C. on the 4th of July and videotaped it, and they uploaded it to YouTube, and then they SWAT teamed him a couple days later, and he's been in jail since. Now, I came across a piece of interesting information yesterday, and I wanted to look into this a little further to find out if this was all true or just hearsay or whatnot. And it turns out that it is true. What am I talking about? Well, apparently, while Kokesh was in jail, and this was probably to be expected by anybody that had half a brain, his so-called crew, and I don't know what members, and I guess they'll come out in the future and tell you what happened a little more. And I do have a piece of audio from Adam in jail, which I guess he was able to record via phone with his girlfriend or whoever, and I'll play that for you all. It's a few minutes long. But they robbed him. They stole money from his legal defense fund, or the fund that people had donated to help his legal defense out. And they also stole, apparently, the computers and equipment and everything that was in his house. And they also lost, apparently the house was rented, and they caused, because he wasn't around to run the show, they went buck wild, and basically they lost the lease on the place. They stole his TVs, his computers, his equipment. This should serve as an example, but I'll get into that in a second. And, I'll get into the reason why it should serve as an example. But first, I want to play the audio for you all. It's just a couple minutes. This is Adam, I guess, on one of the jail phones, and they recorded it. And this is him giving everybody an update as to what's going on now. The information I just gave you was stuff I got from this audio recording and another article that I read by Christopher Cantwell. In fact, I will drop Chris's article into the chat page over on Truth Frequency Radio. If you go over to truthfrequencyradio.com/chat room or federaljack.com and click the Listen Live page button there, a little red button up in the upper right-hand corner, go to the Listen Live page. Either way, I will drop it in the chat page. But here's Adam.
Before we get to your letters, I have to get something out of the way now that it's been made public. Yes, I'm aware that pretty much all my money has been stolen. I am aware that many things I asked my team to get done did not get done, some of which resulted in my eviction. People representing me have lied in my name since I've been arrested and locked up, and misrepresented me in a way that has served to drive away supporters in the liberty activism community and gun rights community. My home was not only ransacked by the police, but someone close to me stole computers, televisions, furniture, and even clothes. Precious data has been erased. Irreplaceable personal possessions have been destroyed and or discarded. Lies have been told to avoid responsibility. Whether all this is the work of a government agent, a plant, or just a common thief is yet to be determined. But if government sabotage was responsible, they could not have done a much better job than the mess I have been trying to clean up for the last month. With the help of my father, Charles Kokesh, and a longtime trusted friend, Jeffrey Phillips, we have been doing our best to untangle this incredible knot and use non-state solutions. One of the things adding to this challenge is that former Adam vs. the Man manager, Lucas Jewell, has been holding our Facebook page hostage for 2.5 months. Lucas, if you're listening to this, please give it back by giving Jeffrey control. As you may know, I have been denied bail for obviously politically motivated reasons, including clerical errors that Judge Broderick refused to acknowledge, and dealing with this knot has already hampered our legal efforts. As a consequence of not having any money, we have not been able to pay our attorneys for either the civil disobedience charges in D.C. or the fabricated charges in Virginia. But we are confident the charges in Virginia will be dropped or dismissed, and we will beat the charges in D.C. Another consequence has been that I have not been able to do as many podcasts from jail as I would like to have because a significant part of the remaining funds have been spent on making phone calls that cost nearly $1 per minute on this extortionate jail phone system. A much more unfortunate consequence is that we have had to postpone our campaign to use this case to make jury nullification common knowledge in America, and now there is less than a month before my trial begins on October 24th. We will have a full announcement on Thursday, but for now, please get ready to hand out jury nullification flyers around D.C., especially around the courthouse in the days leading up to the trial. The amazing Kim Wood of the Adam vs. the Man team will be coordinating these efforts, and if you'd like to get involved, please email her, kim@adamversustheman.com. Start reaching out to any and all media outlets to ask them to cover jury nullification and cover what you are doing to raise awareness. We will also be doing a phone bank, and we'll have more information coming out about that on Thursday. If you're not able to make it into D.C., you can get more information about that then at adamversustheman.com. And mark your calendars for October 24th because thanks to the initiative of some amazing fans of Adam vs. the Man /jury nullification /liberty, that afternoon at the end of our first day of trial, there will be a march from the courthouse to Freedom Plaza, the site of my Independence Day civil disobedience, for a rally hosted by none other than Michael Salvi. And we have two great organizers who have stepped up to the plate for that, Mike Salvi and Kim Shady. And if you want to help out with that, please email Salvi, SALVI, at adamversustheman.com or Shady at adamversustheman.com. And for more information on that event specifically, you can go to freeadamfromtheman.com. As I said, we have been trying to deal with this as much as possible without getting government involved and keeping things quiet in a way that would make it possible to recover stolen funds. In this effort, my father confided in George Donnelly of Shield Mutual, who recently violated that trust by going public with a lot of half-truths, false assumptions, and baseless accusations. Rather than stooping to this level of presumptive self-righteous grandstanding, we are waiting until we have all the facts, and when we do, we will provide a complete public accounting. I am especially troubled by the way that he implicated Ed Ely, Liz DeLish, and Jeffrey Phillips, for whom we have no evidence of wrongdoing, except for Ed having threatened Lucas Jewell, for which he has apologized. Donnelly also accused me of being responsible for false statements made against him, for which he has no evidence. After I had been locked up for over 2 months, he finally tried to communicate with me through an intermediary and brought to my attention that someone may have gotten carried away with my instructions, which were simply to let people know that while we were raising funds for my legal defense, that he had raised over $5,000 in my name and as of a month and a half later had not delivered those funds. Unfortunately, one of the smaller inaccuracies on his website.
And he just goes on to talk about his commissary number being wrong, and then he gives big thank you and a shout out and everything else. The reason I wanted to play this is because, A, I wanted to people have asked me if I knew anything about Kokesh or what was going on, and I did not. So since I found out about it, I figured, okay, here, it's public knowledge. I'll let you know what's going on. So obviously, I don't know who inside of his organization stole from him or whatnot, but the lesson that we can all learn from this, there's two lessons here. First, if you remember when, if you've been a long-time listener, if you remember when Kokesh first got arrested back in July, I said on air with multiple people, multiple different guests coming on the broadcast, different friends and everything, and we went over this, that him being arrested in this whole situation, it was going to probably end up derailing his radio show, and that it wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be in there for a long time, and if he's in there for a long time, long enough period of time, his crew will start to fall apart. And I don't even remember if I worded it exactly like that, but we went over. There was a couple different broadcasts where I went over the different guests that were on. It might have come up, but I know one time Johnny English and I went over. The point is, we discussed the possible ramifications of what could come of this, and this was one of them. So, going out and the lesson that can be learned is when you're a well-known activist, and if you are the head of an organization, we'll say, or a big portion of running that organization, and he was the head of Adam versus the Man. He's the name and everything, and the face and the person behind it. Right? He started it. You can't go out and take risks like he did. Well, he was standing up for liberty, Popeye. Okay, well, how effective is he now? He actually had an effective network of people working while he was there. Obviously, if he was there to keep them in line, things worked, right? And this happens often where if there's one key individual that's in leadership position, if they leave or something happens to them or they're taken out, their underlings, usually it's like you cut the head of the snake off and they don't know what to do. The body just freaks out and dies. Well, that happens often, and unless you have a really, really strong crew and a really well-maintained and trained crew and a loyal crew, that will happen. And a lot of his crew were interns. So without him there to, crack the whip or, be that keystone, the archway fell, right? So if you're that keystone, if you're that person that keeps everything going in your organization, is it smart to really run out and do something risky like he did? No, it's not. So you gotta really think before you do stuff. You gotta think. You gotta think down the road a little bit. I'm not telling everybody freak out and don't take chances or anything, but you need to. This serves as an example of, if you're in his position like that, you need to sit down and think about the ramifications of what could happen. Because now look, because of that stunt, whether or not you agree with, did he have the right to load the shotgun or not? I mean, Jesus, Popeye's the Second Amendment. That's kind of irrelevant right now. Like I said at the time, because of what happened, because he went to jail, because they put him in jail, his, whatever momentum his organization had, and it was effective. I mean, he had a lot of listeners. He would upload a video to YouTube, and I mean, although YouTube blocks view counts, he would still get a lot of hits to it. People would share his stuff. People would call in. He had good guests. There were times he did good interviews. He's not perfect by any means. I didn't agree with at least half of the stuff Adam would say or do. But he was effective. You can't deny it. And by doing that little stunt with the shotgun, he derailed his own effectiveness. Now, some people could say that he was, a shill and an inside agent, whatever. I'm telling you, if you look at it from the fact that no, he's not a shill or anything, he's just an activist, right? He derailed this whole organization by pulling that stunt. So we have to, and I'm not bashing, I'm just saying this should serve as an example of why you need to think about the ramifications of what you're doing in the future. And if it's gonna derail everything you've worked for, and it could lead to its utter destruction, well then maybe you should think about it. And there's another cut of that video where I don't know if he said it in this one, but there's another cut of the same thing where he was talking about it, and he says it's ultimately my fault. And he might have even said it in this one, I don't remember. But I mean, at least he takes the responsibility for it. So he realizes that it was his own fault for doing that to begin with, because that is the event. The shotgun video is what led to all of this. It also serves as an example. The second piece. Everybody always says to me, you should get more help, Popeye, because I say all the time, well, not all the time, but often when people are hey, can you get this done, or can you do this, or blah, 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 blah. And I say, yeah, just got to give me a little time because, I'm a one-man show here. Besides the IT guys that do the background stuff on my IT stuff, I'm the one that posts stuff. I'm the one that renders my shows. I do all my show prep, everything. One-man show. So people always say, well, why don't you get interns? Why don't you get interns? Because I can't afford to pay anybody. I don't make any money myself. I would have to make some sort of income in order to be able to pay somebody, right? So people say, well, why don't you get interns? The college interns, they'll do it for free. Well, there's your problem with getting interns. You have no loyalty. So A, if something happens, what are you going to do? And B, you just can't gauge their loyalty. And the time it would take to go out and interview somebody and do background checks and the money it would cost to do all that stuff to find out who they are and whether or not they can be trusted. I mean, really? That the time and effort it takes? Because I've done the whole intern thing and I've done the whole getting people involved thing. And we had, like I said, we had a bit of a similar situation. Now, we didn't have anybody get arrested and, for loading a gun or anything like that. But we had a similar situation where we had problems with people that were helping us. Like, obviously, you heard him say, my stuff got robbed. They stole all my defense fund money, pretty much. They stole my computers and my TV and all my equipment and everything. Well, we had kind of the same problem. So you have to be careful with who you bring in. I mean, it's very easy for an organization to get infiltrated. And, like, if you read Cantwell's article, you'll see that there was a lot of people at the house that were walking around freely, openly smoking cannabis and stuff. And I'm pro-cannabis. You all know that. I talk about cannabis oil and everything else. But see, that's not using your head, because you're in a house that was already raided by the police. So you got to figure they're probably watching the house. And during the raid, according to the person that was arrested, there were drugs that were planted in said house. So it doesn't make it look good for his legal defense when you're walking around in the house smoking joints openly in the house, or smoking pot, whatever, whether it's through a bong or a joint or whatever. If you're walking around smoking in the house, it isn't, I'm not saying legality or anything like that. I can't stand that. That's on a different level. But if you have to use a little common sense, don't give them the ammo, basically. So this whole case serves as an example of what not to do. Hopefully in the future, Kokesh will get out, and hopefully he'll figure out a better way to handle his business. But if he really, okay, well, and again, this is putting the arguments that people say, oh, he's a shill, blah, 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 blah. Put all that aside. If he was an effective activist, if he's just, we're looking at it like he's just an activist. Well, the effectiveness of his organization has been completely derailed, and who knows how long it's going to take for him to get it back on track. We don't know. So let this serve as an example. If your guys are going to go out and do a street action, if you want to, you see something in the news and you get pissed off, or you're pissed off at the president, or you're pissed off at Congress, or you're pissed off at somebody, whoever, and you want to make a political statement and you feel that you're not violating any laws, I understand that. Okay, and I understand that sometimes you'll get people can get emotionally charged. Believe me, I get it. This stuff can charge you up. But if you're an activist, you're more effective out of jail than you are in jail. Look what Kokesh is doing. Look what he's going through. I mean, the guy's in jail, and he's no longer effective. Okay, so he can answer mail, and people might look at him like a martyr. But he lost, I mean, because he's not there, how many activists, how many different communities, the gun rights community or the liberty community or freedom, whatever, how many people have now shied away from him because of not him getting arrested for loading the shotgun, but because of the shady stuff and the misrepresentations of things that were going on by people that were supposedly representing him while he was in jail. So you see, if he hadn't gone to jail to begin with, those side problems, which are more like symptoms, right? They're not the disease itself. They're symptoms that you have to deal with. The disease itself, in this case, would be him giving them enough ammo to arrest him and put him in jail. And that's what brought his own organization down. And people could say, oh, he did it to himself. But, I mean, I don't know if you'd want to do it to yourself and then, while you're in jail, have people rob you. I mean, that just doesn't sound right. But whatever. The point is, it serves as an example of why people need to be more careful. There's a lot of good activists out there. There's a lot of you that listen to this broadcast, whether it's on live or you listen later on. And we need you guys. If you're if you're out there doing the right thing, we need you, and ladies too. So, and I'm not saying, look, I know they'll arrest you for breathing in the wrong direction nowadays, but you got to use a little bit of logic. You got to think if you're very popular like him, you're going to be getting watched. So you got to use your brain. You got to think like they do. You have to think like they do and then think 5 steps ahead of them. No, it's not easy, but you have to fully understand them too. You have to understand the art of war. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go get the book. 5,000-year-old war fighting tactics. Every bit as mental as physical. Go read the book. You'll understand how they play the game. You'll get things a little bit better. You have to be willing to understand how the enemy thinks, the powers that shouldn't be. You have to put yourself in their shoes and think like they do. Always be on guard. Always be on guard. And, I'm not bashing him, but one of the things that was his Achilles heel was he's got a bit of an ego. And that can blind you at times. You got to be careful. They're really up to no good, ladies and gentlemen. The powers that shouldn't be. Look what they did to Kokesh. Look what they've done to other people. They try to set people up with kiddie porn on their computers. They are out for blood. So we must be on the lookout. We must be paying attention. Because they certainly are. And they're waiting for any excuse to climb up your rear ends. And mine. So I suggest that we all try to keep our noses clean as best we can. Just don't do stupid things in public. There's a better way to get a point across. There's a much better way to get a point across. Again, all of you are much more effective out of jail than in jail. All right. I'm going to move on to another topic really quick for the end of the first hour, and then we also have hour 2 coming up. I'm going to get into Obamacare and a few other things. Piers Morgan, really quick. I thought you might find this interesting. CNN is apparently dropping Piers Morgan. FTV online, they're a gossip and news website for inside the TV and news industry, and a lot of different people use them and their work, their inside sources, and their stuff as a source for other articles. Apparently, CNN is, in the works of, in the midst of getting ready to drop Piers Morgan, and obviously they work with him and his manager to they'll probably either give him like a late night show, or maybe something on the weekends, but they're moving him out of his primetime lineup, from what I understand. Gee, I wonder why. Unpopular scumbag. And maybe they won't even give him anything at all. He might even exit from CNN. But of course, they have to work it out with him and his manager, so he doesn't get the public eye. I look good in the public eye. I thought you guys might be interested in hearing something that Piers Morgan had to say. He's so anti-gun. Well, I don't know. Within the past few years, he was a judge on this. I think the show's called The X Factor or something like that, or Britain's Got Talent, or whatever the hell it is, something like that. Anyway, there's this clip of when he was on it, and this is, from over there in the UK, and the host of that show, one of the hosts, is talking to him about 2 of the contestants. Listen to what Piers Morgan has to say about the 2 contestants, Mr. Anti-Gun.
Theoretical situation, you've got Clarkson, Trini, and in his All on Britain's Got Talent, they all do their respective kind of things that they're supposed to be famous for. Clarkson perhaps ranting about green credentials, his Saki jokes, Trini talking about what you guys are wearing. How do you mark them? How do you scale them? And what would you say?
What I'd do is I'd replace the buzzers with a machine gun and just take them all out and do the public a massive favour. What I'd do is I'd replace the buzzers with a machine gun and just take them all out and do the public a massive favour.
Oh. But, Piers, I thought you were Mr. Peaceful. I thought you were against guns, Piers. I thought guns were bad. I would replace the buzzers with machine guns and take them all out. Could that be considered death threats against the contestants of Britain's Got Talent? I wonder if there should be a uproar in this country. Perhaps we should have news media coverage for 3 days straight. Piers Morgan threatens Britain's Got Talent contestant with machine gun. Threatens to kill everyone. Schools locked down. Hypocrite? You wonder why CNN's dropping them. God, what a hypocritical piece of crap. CNN's obviously dropping him because probably his ratings have, well, not probably, I know his ratings have tanked, and besides his ratings tanking, they've probably gotten a bazillion phone calls and emails as to why they have that moron on the air. And yeah, I will use an ad hominem against him. The guy is, I mean, go look up Piers Morgan. He got thrown out of his own country. Remember when they were all talking about deporting him? We should deport Piers Morgan back to the UK. People in the UK were like, we don't want him back. Don't send him back here. How much of a loser are you when your own country doesn't even want you back? Oh, that's just what the people say. Who cares what they say? I'm popular with my friends and I hang out with Michelle and Barack Obama. Okay, most of the country doesn't like them either. So, what does that tell you? It's pretty pathetic that they don't care what you think. They really do care. They just say that to save face. And if he leaves, if he gets another show, like I said, they'll probably just give him a show at night, probably like the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock slot, right? Or maybe they'll just take him off altogether. Hopefully that's what they'll do, because I can't stand his face or his voice. And, I mean, he does me a favor because he makes my job so much easier. It's not really hard to take him to the woodshed at all. Piers makes things so much easier that it's not even funny. It's like, thank you, Piers. Thank you for making the job I do so much easier. But I'm sure they'll replace him with some other tart like, did they say Katie Couric? I think they were talking about. Ugh. Another fluff. Whatever. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Ugh. Mainstream media is a joke anyway. I wouldn't even bother going to any of those channels or newspapers. All right. Hour 1 is up, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 2 coming up. Stay tuned. I got a few other things I want to get into, including Obamacare and the spooky government shutdown. Ooh! Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is October 1st, 2013. Here in hour number 2, I'm going to get into Obamacare, the oh so scary government shutdown. Oh my God. And a few other things. Obamacare. By the way, welcome to socialized healthcare, ladies and gentlemen. For all of you out there who might differ with my opinion about Obamacare and you think, oh my God, Papa, you just don't want people to have free healthcare. Oh no, you have no idea what's coming. You'll see. You'll see. You'll see. In fact, there's already glitches with their system, which I'm going to get into. Okay, they can't even get their system straight. They can't. The multiple different news agencies, MSNBC and CNN alone, and even though they're I hate to I don't even have to tell you exactly how useless both of those places are. They did actually do a piece of news, and it's amazing because they tried to still do damage control, but ever the propaganda networks they are, really. But they showed you the reporters, 2 different sets of reporters tried to get on, actually 3 different sets of reporters tried to get online. One from CNN, 2 from CNN, and then 1 from MSNBC tried to log in and register, and there were all sorts of glitches all over the place. All sorts of glitches. So before I get into the glitches thing, I just want to let everybody know, welcome to Socialized Medicine. And by the way, everybody out there is now going to get a chance to experience what veterans experience. And people are going to probably go, oh my God, that's awesome. We get free healthcare like the veterans. Oh, just wait until you experience what healthcare through the government's like. Just wait. Just wait, ladies and gentlemen, until you have to go to your doctor by 8 o'clock in the morning, or you won't be seen at all that day. Oh, yes, that's coming. If you're not in by 9:30 in the morning, you're done. There's clinics at the VA that are like that. They're only open once a week. And if you're not there by 9:30 in the morning, you're not going to be able to see the doctor, even if it's 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And a lot of times these doctors, they leave by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Same thing with, even if a private office is open till 5. Or even 5:30. There's going to be lines. Because, see, everybody is going to have this all-access pass now. And, well, just like happened in Germany and Austria and other countries throughout history, if you go listen, I've played the audio before from, and I can't remember her name now, but I'll have to look up the audio and find it. This survivor of both the Stalin regime and the Nazi regime talked about what happened when the Nazis brought socialized healthcare into Austria. It was either her father or her uncle was a doctor, and she talks about how beforehand he would go in and open up his his office or whatever, and he would see his patients like normal. After they passed socialized healthcare, he would go in and he would come into work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and there would be 50 people lined up outside the office, and those would be, out of those 50 people, maybe 20 of them, if they were lucky, would be the ones that got seen all day long. So if you weren't out there by 5 or 6 a.m., lined up outside that door first thing, you weren't getting seen by the doctor. That's what's going to start to happen here. And then, because there's so many of the experienced good doctors are quitting, well, there's going to be even longer waits, because now you're not going to have the option of 6 or 7 doctors in your area, because 5 of those doctors quit. And people are going, oh, well, that's fine, Popeye, because there's newer generations of doctors coming in, so that's fine. They'll just be replaced. Oh, that's great. You'll have seasoned professionals who have been doing this for a very long time and understand things and know what to look for, being replaced by wet behind the ears kids fresh out of college that, mind you, are fished from the pool of people that don't know their left from their right and are not taught logical thinking and critical thinking, mind you, because all these younger generations are dumbed down, just like the school system wants, and they come out of a very liberal-minded college. Okay, I've seen it. I've had interns from very prestigious, and it's not VA doctor interns. And usually the VA uses whatever local hospitals. Usually the VA hospitals are located around other hospitals, and often they'll have deals with other hospitals where the doctors work shifts. Okay, so we have, at like the VA hospital in Miami, they used doctors from the University of Miami. So you have doctors that are very well trained. Okay? The problem is they also have their interns there, and when their interns come in, I had surgery one time. I was there for a post-op appointment for my surgery. They were taking the cast off, and obviously my chart says that I had surgery, the kind of surgery I had, and I had a cast on. And while I was in there seeing this surgeon, the intern said to me, she comes up with a saw, with the little vibra saw to remove the cast. And she says to me, first thing she says to me is, so, did you have surgery on your leg? Well, if you're taking care of me, did you read my chart at all? You're supposed to be the doctor, right? You're the one playing doctor with the neat little scrubs on. Didn't you read my chart and see that the doctor worked on me? Your boss operated on my appendage 2.5, 3 weeks before, and I'm here to get the cast off and have the staples removed? Actually had no clue that I had seen her boss, the surgeon. Did not bother to read my chart, just came into the room and grabbed the saw and wanted to cut the cast off. Didn't bother to look at my chart or anything. So that's the generation of doctors. That's the level of thinking that's replacing this older school, more experienced, I would say. And look, I can tell you from dealing with it myself, there are doctors at the VA hospital that are older, and perhaps maybe they do need to be replaced, right? And there are doctors certainly out in the civilian world like that. But not all of the older doctors are cranky, and curmudgeon like a-holes and refuse to do stuff. A lot of these older doctors are the ones that think outside the box because they've been doing this for 20 or 30 years, and perhaps maybe over the course of time they start to think outside the box just because they start to see things working that maybe they didn't think would work. Okay, I've seen many a doctor change their minds. And yes, again, there is that older school generation of thinking that, I'm right and, blah, 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 blah. But and I've experienced it, but there are a lot of good doctors out there. Those are the guys you're going to lose. You're going to lose the good ones, and we're going to be left with people that don't know anything. Do you really want to go to see a doctor and, the doctor you're seeing is, third year or second year resident? And I'm not saying that residents can't be good doctors. I've met some residents that are, some of these interns or whatever the frig you want to call them. They're doing their residency there or whatever, and maybe they are a good doctor, but they're still in training. And oftentimes, if they're really good, the guy moves on to some other specialty. So you're going to be faced with going to the doctor, and look, you're a doctor again. The realities of Obamacare, you being able to see whatever doctor you want. Say you've had Dr. Smith for 20 years. Well, guess what? Dr. Smith might not be covered by Obamacare now, so he might not be in your little circle of providers. And on top of it, Dr. Smith might retire because he don't want to deal with Obamacare's crap. So now Dr. Smith, the great doctor that you used to go to, is gone. And why did he retire? Because the government passed Obamacare. Well done. Well done, government. Well done. But see, this newer generation of doctors, they're trained right along the lines of the thinking of Obamacare, if you think about it, because I'm sure older school doctors wouldn't go along with death panels and things like that, but when you have a different generation of individuals with a different basic set of thinking, skills, not thinking the way you and I would, but, maybe there are too many people on the planet. That kind of thinking. They get that thinking ingrained into people. Those are the new doctors we're going to have to face. So I just want people to understand that this isn't. There's a lot of people that I'm friends with that I really care about, and I want to slap them in the head because there's some of them are like, this is great, Obamacare, Obama's the greatest president, and I'm like, man, you just cannot see the forest for the trees. Ugh, God. Sometimes it just gets frustrating. And I'm sure you all have relatives like that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure everybody has experienced that at least one point in their life where they have somebody that just does not see what's going on, especially lately. It gets so frustrating because it's right in front of your face. And anyway, I want to play you an audio clip. Well, two clips. First one I want to play is this MSNBC. I'm going to let it. It's only 2 minutes, so I'm going to let it go uninterrupted. But this is this news anchor, whatever you want to call it, a repeater, and from MSNBC, and she did this report where she tried. Like I said, she wanted to see how long it would take and sign up. And I don't think that they tried to do this as a. I don't think their reports started out as like a, let's bash Obamacare. I think they probably wanted to show how easy it was, but it didn't turn out that way. And even CNN was kind of, glitches are to be expected, and even the president said there would be glitches. Now, if I remember correctly, there was a lot of people that said the system wasn't ready to be implemented and that it was going to cause delays and quote-unquote glitches. But hey, that's to be expected when you rush things, right? But hey, that's our motif. Let's rush into things and not pay any attention to what people are actually saying could happen. Let's not sit down for 5 minutes and try to figure out how to alleviate those problems. Let's be American and rush headlong into it. Rah! Here's MSNBC, one of their anchors, trying to sign up for Obamacare coverage, and listen to what happens. After a half hour, she couldn't do it.
That the Obamacare insurance exchanges are live, the process of choosing what's right for you might seem a little overwhelming. And with millions of people possibly logging on, it could take longer to get where you want to go. Maryland's marketplace announced a 4-hour delay right after it opened. I wanted to know what the process was like. So this morning, I tested it out at healthcare.gov, and here's what happened. This is the beginning of the login process. I'm creating an account, and it's pretty much like it would be for any other website. It's asking for name, email address, user ID. It says step 1 of 3, so I'm I'll then start to input more information. So I was sent an activation link to my personal email account. I clicked on it, and now I'm going to proceed with setting up my account. So now that I have an account, it's asking me about myself. So this is step 2, filling out personal information about me and my family before I get to the final step of choosing a plan. I keep getting this error page. It won't let me progress past it won't let me progress past verifying personal information. So I'm going to call the help number now and see what they have to say. So we're about 30 minutes into the process. I've been able to set up my account. I was in the process of verifying my identity, and I hit a roadblock on the website. I kept getting an error message. So I tried to initiate an online chat. That didn't go anywhere. Now I'm on hold. It's my second time calling, and we're 8 minutes into this call. There was a previous call that lasted about 3 minutes. So all in all, it's been about 10 minutes where I'm waiting to speak to a person. Right now, it's just repeating the same recorded message over and over again, telling me to hold on. So we'll see where it goes. So this is a state-by-state process. Our executive producer tried to do it for a different state, New Jersey, and this is the screen that she got, that the system is down. So it just started ringing again, but I haven't reached a person yet. We're 15 minutes in now. And back to the recorded message. So it's 15 minutes into this. It's 15 minutes into this call now. This is the second call, so I've probably spent almost 20 minutes on the phone now. We started about 35 minutes ago, so at this point, I'm going to hang up and call it a day. If I were signing up for myself, this is where my patients would be exhausted. Oh, the White House said.
Yeah, the White House says there's glitches to be expected because, there's a million people logging on at once. But it's a state-by-state thing. So what are the state portals for then? If the state portals funnel everybody to the federal government website, then what's the point of having the state portals? Why wouldn't you just have everybody log on to the federal government portal? Right? Why wouldn't you have a server farm set up big enough to handle that load? I mean, after all, you've had enough time to get everything set up, right? You guys have all this money to fund it, right? Oh, that's right. The IRS can't account for $67 million of the money that was set aside to fund Obamacare and these little special insurance, whatever the hell they're calling them, the little places that you can go get the insurance from. Yeah. It was all supposed to be funded by this money that was set aside, which Congress had already set aside. Yeah, the IRS can't figure out where at least $67 million of that money went. Gee, I wonder where you guys misspent that money. The litany of things they probably did with it is unbelievable. Anyway, that was MSNBC. Now watch, CNN tries to get on. You notice they're not bashing Obamacare, and they're very light with how they go into the clip of, oh, well, this is the reason, blah, 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 and I'm trying to get through. And they're it comes across in a very calm tone. If this were done by the other side of the aisle, because it's the faux left-right thing, if this were done by the other side, they would have been up in arms and outraged over it, right? Let's listen to what CNN has to say. Again, you're going to hear them say, well, there's glitches to be expected. The president did say that there was 1 million people signing on. So, there is a lot of people. I thought it was your job to report the news, not make excuses for why things don't work when people told you they weren't going to work. Oh, that's right. You guys are the propaganda machine. Hold on. Here's CNN.
Online. This is healthcare.gov, hoping to enroll in the Obamacare exchanges, but the websites have been experiencing technical glitches. Senior medical correspondent Elizabeth Cohen and medical team have been trying to log in, and thus far, unsuccessful in the state of Georgia. So I pretended like I really was doing it when we were here in Atlanta. And so you get this screen first. And so I clicked apply now, and let me show you what we got. Please wait. Now it says, thanks for your patience, and I was patient. In about 5 minutes, I did get to a screen book where you could try to create a login, which is the first step. But let me show you what happened. When you try to create an account, you have to do all these security questions. You've seen them other places. Sure. And when you do it, it says no options. Like I can't even get to the questions. It just says no options, and you can't create an account
without putting in these questions.
Okay.
So I kind of hit a wall, and I tried this several times today.
So you guys hit a wall. We're here in Georgia. What about other states? Similar issues?
The CNN medical team branched out, and we tried in about 20 different states. And in 12 of them, we hit glitches.
Okay.
And sometimes it just made it impossible to sign up. There were error messages or that little annoying kind of like twirly thing.
I
where
hate the twirly thing.
Hate it, right?
Right.
So, yeah, in many cases.
Oh, ha ha ha, I hate the twirly thing. Ha ha ha, it's so funny. Ha. News brought to you with a smile by two bimbos.
You just couldn't sign up.
President Obama, he addressed this, speaking at the White House earlier, sort of likening it to glitches with Apple. This was the president.
Now, like every new law, every new product rollout, there are going to be some glitches in the sign-up process along the way that we will fix. I've been saying this from the start. For example,
Like every new law, there's glitches. The point of having a legislative process is to actually debate laws and go over them so that there aren't glitches like that. That's the whole reason we have the debate process. But see, when you guys go ahead and ramrod things through without debate, and even if there is debate and opposition, like people keep the news media keeps spinning it. The public voted for Obamacare, Congress passed it. So it, blah, 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 blah. But most of the people in between the time that it was okayed and now have realized what's going on and they don't want it. They've changed their minds. But that doesn't matter. That's not reality. That's the part of reality they forget. And besides Congress, the Congress that passed Obamacare was Democrat controlled. It was all Democrats that voted for it. And they outnumbered the Republicans at the time, so guess who won? Obamacare is not what people think it is. Believe me, I wish that people would pull their heads out of their butts in Washington, right, and solve problems, but they don't. Like my father used to tell me, you could wish in one hand and crap in the other and tell me which one weighs more, all right? They're not going to solve your problems. And by the way, if they really wanted to solve problems and give health care to people and fund it with no issues, how about we stop bombing things? I'll get into that during the government shutdown rant. Just wait. There's one more piece I want to finish this, and there's one more piece I want to play from CNN, but let me finish up. Ha, 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 the laughing CNN anchors. It's so funny. Obamacare doesn't work, and then Obama likens it to Apple. Really? You're likening this to Apple? Apple has their equipment made with little slave fingers. They have to put suicide nets outside the windows so the people that work for these manufacturing companies that make Apple products don't kill themselves, Mr. President. You really want to be likening the Obamacare message to that of Apple? Maybe you should fire whoever wrote that comment for you.
For example, we found out that there have been times this morning where the site's been running more slowly than it normally will. The reason is because more than 1 million people visited healthcare.gov before 7 in the morning.
Well, who's your IT guy? Because I know websites that get that many hits and they don't go down. Again, you're the federal government. You guys don't have a T1 line? Perhaps a few T1 lines running into the building? Don't have a server farm set up? You didn't think about this at all? 350 million plus people in this country, and you didn't think that perhaps a couple million might try to sign on by 7 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. Maybe your IT guy should be fired.
He had said, issues with iPhone when it first rolled out, but this isn't necessarily like the iPhone, right?
Right. I mean, my iOS 7 works. I just sent someone an email. It works. This, I couldn't even sign up. In some states that we tried, we could get to the sign up point, but in many cases, we just hit a wall.
Day one.
But they say they're trying to speed it up, right? So they're going to.
And you see how the other one, the clip cuts there, but you see how the other one is, day one, 6 months. But basically what she was getting at was, 6 months down the road, things will be smoother. But if this was done right and not rushed, there wouldn't be problems. Or the problems would be very minimal. The only time you run into problems is when you set yourself up for failure. You set yourself up for failure when you run into things head first. And that's what they did with this. It had to be rushed. It had to be rushed. Oh my God, people are dying. It's got to be rushed. It's got to be rushed. Ah! And now people are going, oh, wait a minute. This isn't really beneficial to me. We need to stop this. And they're going, no, we need to rush it. Oh, my God, if you don't get Obamacare, you're going to die. You're probably more likely to die if given Obamacare. Now, here's what CNN followed up this piece later on with, because this is during the afternoon, and then later in the evening, early evening, on comes Wolf Blitzer, and this is what Wolf Blitzer and his one of his reporters have to say about it. Listen to how they try to fix it. And of course, the title of their little video slideshow is called Obamacare, Just the Facts.
Well, the president's probably right, Wolf, in the sense that there was a lot of demand early on. Obamacare hoped to launch with a bang this morning. It's been more like a sputter. Look at all these states across the country in red here where people have had problems with the websites as they try to look into and sign up.
Here, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 states. Oh, but that's just a small percentage, right? Just a tiny percentage.
For this program, some of our producers checked out these systems, and in New York, they got a message that said there was an internal server error. In Maryland, they were told that there were essentially connectivity issues and the web page was not available. And in Washington, the whole screen just froze up and they actually had to shut it down and restart it for troubleshooting. Still, our team got through just fine in places like Kentucky, Iowa, Connecticut, Oregon, and other places. So while the problems are widespread, one person may find an issue in one state, and in the same state, this next person may not. The federal government, meanwhile, is handling enrollment for 36 states which have opted out of Obamacare or haven't fully established their insurance marketplaces. And this is the message that many people were getting when they signed on to the federal website when they had troubles. We have a lot of visitors on our site right now, and we're working to make your experience here better. Please wait here until we send you to the login page. Thanks for your patience. So a lot of glitches is the right word, really. This is not particularly unexpected. This is a massive, complicated program. The president said he expected glitches, and the Department of Health and Human Services even put out a statement saying, look, take a look at this right now. They said, we have built a dynamic system, and we're prepared to make adjustments as needed to improve the customer experience. There will be many adjustments, I suspect, Wolf, because this is such a huge and complicated system. But most of this so far today seemed to be just that, glitchy. And bear in mind, this is just the beginning of a 6-month process of signing up. So really what we need to do is see where this is in 2-3 weeks and how well it's going.
We'll see how long these glitches continue. You'll stay on top of it for us.
Yes, I'm sure he will stay right on top of it for you, Wolf. And I'm sure CNN will stay right on top of it, too, with all of their propaganda. You guys are supposed to be a news agency, by the way. You could at least act like it and pretend to be a news agency like you used to. And it's to the point where it's just outright in your face. They're apologizing and trying to explain to you. Now, I know people might think that that's, well, they're doing news. The news, according to them, right, they're supposed to be impartial. They're not supposed to take a side. They're not supposed to have an agenda. They're just supposed to report the news to you, right? After all, these are the journalists that Dianne Feinstein wants to protect, and not us that bring you real information. And here they're coming on and pretty much doing a video commercial for Obamacare. Ugh. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the dreaded government shutdown. Don't go anywhere. All right, dreaded government shutdown, right? Oh my God, the dreaded government shutdown, Popeye. We'll get into that in 2 seconds. First, I want to throw out there really quick. This Friday, I want you to make sure you tune in. I'm going to do a prisoner of war special. And the guy who made the film, put it together, whose brother was a prisoner of war. Actually, I think, yeah, it was one of them is the brother, and the other one I think is either the nephew of the guy. I think it was the nephew, the guy who disappeared. His brother and his son. That's easier. They put together a film about this 25, 30-year-long fight to find the remains of his missing brother, who was a prisoner of war, and a couple hundred other prisoners of war who were left in North Korea. And also, I'll be getting into prisoners of war, going back to World War I and other stuff. But I'm going to be playing audio for you that'll just, if you haven't heard it and you don't know anything about this, it'll blow your mind. So make sure you tune in this Friday for my Prisoner of War special. I focus a lot on veterans issues. Anybody that's listened over the years knows this. If you haven't, you're a newer listener, picking me up here in Truth Frequency. Well, you're going to find out this is one of the things I talk about. I have no issues exposing war crimes. At the same time, I also expose how veterans are mistreated, and I try to bridge the gap between the non-veteran / military, or non-military / veteran / civilians, and the people that are active duty are veterans. And there's this gap between people that have served and that haven't. And I tried with this broadcast to bridge that gap and make each side understand the other a little bit better as much as I can, in the hopes that we can end this, bridge this huge divide, make it that much smaller between both sides, the distance that much shorter. If the distance is a mile apart, I can, my goal is to bring it right up on top of each other. But even if I got them an inch apart, I'd be happy, because they would be, that much closer. And that's what a lot of this does. A lot of people that maybe didn't understand veterans issues and stuff, at the end of the day, maybe you thought, well, they're just baby killers and screw them, or they're just trying to mooch off the system. After listening when I do veterans issues broadcasts, a lot of times I've had people say, hey, I appreciate the way you cover things, and, you're not, like an army recruiter, and you'll never catch me recruiting people for the military. You'll always, when I do veterans shows and stuff like that, or talk about DU, like I've had Doug Rocky on, whenever I do any of those broadcasts, I always tell people not to join the military, because it's not what it used to be, and you're going to get used and thrown away. So, I have some of my friends call me the anti-recruiter. I guess, it is what it is. Anyway, I want to get into two things, because we only have the final segment here. Make sure, by the way, you tune in Friday. And one of the things I'm going to bring up, this person's name will be mentioned multiple times on Friday as one of the reasons that people don't even know that there's prisoners of war, that there were prisoners of war left in North Korea or Vietnam and elsewhere. So, his name's John McCain. John McShame. Or McInsane, whatever you want to call him. Guy's a traitor. Oh, Popeye, he's a veteran. Huh. You'll hear what Vietnam vets have to say about him, and you'll hear a little bit more truth about his time as a POW than what the news media tells you. Anyway, speaking of Mr. McCain, he hired Elizabeth Obagi as a legislative assistant. Does anybody know who Elizabeth Obagi is? Apparently she starts next week as his legislative assistant. Now, I don't know what the hell that is, but if it means that she'll be helping him craft bills and legislation that becomes law, well, I think we should have a problem with this, because this woman was this analyst, I guess they called her, whatever, on Syria. And she worked for a couple different organizations, and she was used, her pro-invasion of Syria, her pro-Syrian rebels stance, and her push for U.S. involvement when they were trying to bomb Syria at the height of the bombing of, the height of the bloodlust, the height of the wanting to bomb, I should say. They didn't bomb, but the height of them, wanting to bomb and salivating at the thought of killing people. They brought this young lady on. She was on CNN. I think Fox had her on. MSNBC probably even had her on. But I know a couple of the channels had her on, including CNN. And CNN ended up later on being forced, because once it came out that she was a putz, they had her on. Now they had to at least run something to save face. So then they talked about her later on. But she was on pretty much saying that we need to invade Syria. We should get involved. These poor Syrian people. Blah 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 blah. right? She was pushing the propaganda line, and she was on all the channels, a pretty young face, an attractive young lady on there. Oh my God, she must be right. She sounds so smart. She's so young. And it also draws in the younger crowd to listen and pay attention. Well, it turns out that she had lied about her, her background and everything, and her credentials, so she was fired. Well, apparently John McInsane has hired this chick, and she also had connections to groups that were connected to the Syrian rebels. So obviously she's on TV saying, "Oh my God, I'm an independent analyst, and we need U.S. involvement for these poor Syrian people," and she was connected to groups connected to the Syrian rebels. So obviously you could see this was a ploy by the powers that shouldn't be to, propaganda, blatant in your face, that we need to bomb, we need to bomb, we need to bomb. That's what, having her on there was. So, and she was on the pro-Syrian opposition group. She was on, it was called the Syrian Emergency Task Force. And apparently she resigned from it, but whatever. I mean, Bush openly resigned from things too, and he didn't really resign. So, need I say more? Anyway, this woman has been picked up, this liar, this person who either she faked her own credentials or someone faked them for her, whatever. This individual that's a known propaganda tool now is now working for John McCain. I guess he felt bad for her, right? He probably knew her, and he was probably in on, because these senators do a lot of shady things behind the scenes, by the way, and he probably either knew her or knew of her involvement, and this is her way of getting paid back for her losing her jobs because they involved her in this. We're sorry, Elizabeth. I'll give you a job working for me. You can be my assistant. You'll get paid. Legislative assistant. I don't even know what the hell a legislative assistant does, but I think we need to look into that, because this woman should not be helping him craft any sort of legislation at all. Of course, she's working for John McCain, so what does that tell you? I mean, it's not a big surprise, right? A liar working for a liar? No surprise there. Anyway, dirtbags. Learn more about John Scumbag McCain this Friday on Down the Rabbit Hole, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. You'll learn how he blocked investigations into prisoners of war. He blocked, he helped block people going over there. You'll see. You'll hear all about it. You'll hear all about it. Oh, Kerry, too. Oh, yeah. Skeletor. Oh, yeah. He's another traitorous piece of crap. Oh, Mr. I'll sign the UN treaty. I could go on about those guys for hours. Anyway, I want to get into the government shutdown really quick. Oh, and one other thing. This is really important. This needs to be focused on before I even get into the government shutdown, because that's kind of ridiculous. Radioactive bluefin tuna caught off the California coast. I repeat, radioactive bluefin tuna caught off of California coast. I have this posted up on federaljack.com. Every bluefin tuna tested in the waters off California has shown to be contaminated with radiation that originated in Fukushima. Every single one. Over a year ago, in May of 2012, the Wall Street Journal reported on a Stanford University study. A marine ecologist led the study, was quoted as saying, quote, "The tuna packaged it up," meaning the radiation, "and brought it across the world's largest ocean. We were definitely surprised to see it all, and even more surprised to see it in every one we measured." End quote. So the guy who did this, marine ecologist who did the study, said that the tuna that were over there, they packaged up the radiation from swimming through it, brought it in their system, and they swam across the ocean, and now the tuna that they're catching in the California coast that gets put in your tuna cans, the tuna you feed your children, you feed yourself, you might even feed your cats with it. It is now all contaminated. So all the tuna that they've caught off the California coast to check during this study have all been contaminated with Fukushima radiation. But hey, there's nothing to worry about. Go back to sleep, America. America's Got Talent or American Idol is on. You should worry about that. Fukushima, what's that? That's just conspiracy theorists talking about that stuff. They're silly conspiracy retards. Don't pay them any attention. ad hominem, ad hominem, ad hominem. Now, you should pay us attention. I'll read you the quote again. Quote, "The tuna packaged it up," meaning the radiation, "and brought it across the world's largest ocean. We were definitely surprised to see it at all, and even more surprised to see it in every one we measured." Meaning every fish they measured. So they're saying, we were surprised that we even saw the radiation from Fukushima to begin with, let alone every fish that we pulled out and tested had concentrations of radiation from Fukushima in it. But hey, it's okay because the federal government raised the allowable limit of radiation that you can ingest into your body or you can be exposed to. So it's okay because the federal government says it's okay. Yeah, the same federal government that can't manage their budget and stop overspending their money, that they keep being forced to raise the credit limit. That's what the debt ceiling is. It's the country's credit limit. Hello? Do you have a credit limit? What is it, $5,000, $10,000? Let me ask you a question. When you go up to your credit limit, do you go to the bank and go, "I need more money"? What do you think the bank's going to say to you? You have a $10,000 limit, Mr. Smith, and you've reached $10,000 on it. You need to pay some of your balance off before we raise your credit limit. Well, no. I will. I promise. Please, pretty, please. Because that's what we do. But hey, they saved money because they turned off the radiation detectors on the West Coast. Well, in Canada, they turned them off. I don't know if we've turned ours off completely. Only about half of the ones that they have were working. And by now, I'm sure that they probably turned them off or they just ignore them so they don't pay attention to them anyway. And then they just raise the allowable level of radiation. So, hey, it doesn't matter. Another member of the study group, marine biologist Nicholas Fisher at Stony Brook University in New York State, reported, quote, "We found that absolutely every one of them had comparable concentrations of cesium-134 and cesium-137, end quote. I'll read that to you again. We found that absolutely every one of them, every one of the fish that you're eating now, that's getting caught right now and being packaged and canned right now, quote, we found that every one of them had comparable concentrations of cesium-134 and cesium-137. Once that gets into your system, it's in your system. You eat radioactive tuna, you now have cesium in your system. I have to stop feeding. I've been feeding my cats tuna as a treat for a very long time. Not anymore. The tuna I've got now is all I'm feeding them, and that's it. Once it goes, it goes. No more tuna for them. And I've already started to switch their diet up to meat because they like beef, so I feed them real beef. But don't have a choice. Can't trust the tuna unless I know it's coming from the Atlantic Ocean or the Great Lakes. And even then, how do I know that the radiation fallout that's in the sky and being rained down into those lakes? Because I don't know if they're not testing the waters there either. They're not taking this seriously. This is one thing that you're not hearing about. Everybody's, oh my God, the government shut down. Oh my God, what are we going to do? The government shut down. Oh my God, who's going to build the roads? F the government shutdown. Radioactive bluefin tuna caught off California coast. Hello? Federaljack.com, ladies and gentlemen. Go see the article, pass it all around, read it yourself. And there's more. I only have a portion of it. I didn't want to steal the article from the lady that originally wrote it, so I only reposted a portion of it with a portion of the information. She's got pictures and more information and stuff on her website, and there's a link at the bottom that says read the full article there, and I suggest you go read the whole thing. And by the way, that was over a year ago when they did that. This was over a year ago. And the fish that were tested had already relatively little exposure to the radioactive waste being dumped into the ocean. How much radioactive waste do you think's been dumped in since this test was done a year ago? They just admitted that it's pouring into the frigging Pacific. Is anybody concerned about this? The Pacific Ocean is pretty much a dead zone now. I wouldn't go swimming in it. I wouldn't be eating anything from it. And if I lived on the West Coast, I certainly wouldn't be living there. I'd be moving because everything's going to glow green. And what really sucks is the Midwest gets their rain from the Pacific. So now all that contaminated water is going to get sucked up into the clouds. It's going to get brought over. And when it rains down, and I don't want to hear that the radioactive particles, they won't travel up in the air. What about the ones that are already in the air? What do you do about that? And how do you know that the radioactive particles won't travel up in the air? Well, because it evaporates and water goes up as vapor. How do you know it's not attached to a water vapor molecule? I don't trust that. You know what? I don't trust it anymore. I don't trust anything. Now that I know that whole, and I've already known this, but now that I can confirm it to you guys that whole thing is a, radioactive zone, I wouldn't recommend going there. I was asked about going to Washington State because I've always wanted to, my friends know this. Since the time I was a little kid, I've always wanted to live in Washington State. It was a place I wanted to go. I have friends that live there. I've just always wanted to live out and see the woods, go out up in the North Woods up there and, have a cabin, run around chasing Bigfoot or whatever. I mean, it's just, I like that area. I like the woodsy feel of it, okay? Like, not maybe Seattle, but other, maybe one of the smaller towns or something up in the mountains, something like that. I just like that mountainy feel, and it's gorgeous out there. I'll never move out there, ever. I can't, because the whole West Coast is now irradiated, and I know it. And that destroys Washington State for me. And I wish there were people that wouldn't move there. I have friends that live there, and I've told them, dude, you guys should pay attention. And they laugh at me. They say, oh, come on, dude. If the government would tell us if the radiation levels were harmful from Fukushima, newsflash, they're not going to tell you if they're harmful from Fukushima. They don't care. They don't care about you, okay? If they cared, they would have had the monitors up, and they would have had the monitors going since day one, and since this happened over 2 years ago, they would have been running around monitoring everything. They're not. Do you not understand that? They're not monitoring anything because I'm sure they monitor it for themselves, but they're not monitoring it for you. And there's a lot of elitists that live out on the West Coast. And in fact, the last time I had Liam Sheff on, when Liam and I were talking about this, we talked about how there's a lot of the people out on the West Coast are selling their houses. They don't want anything to do with the West Coast. All of a sudden, they're out. Gee, I wonder why that is. I wonder why you wouldn't want anything to do with the West Coast. I wonder why you would want out. Unless maybe you, as being an insider, because you have money, and some of these people that are elitists, and some of these stars or whatever, these elitist people, these rich people that live over there, they get to be in the know. And what happens? Maybe they know something. Maybe they pay more attention to what's going on with Fukushima, and they're selling their places and they're moving. I'm not trying to pack anybody, but I'm trying to be a realist. The Pacific Ocean is pretty much radioactive now, thanks to Fukushima. And because they didn't act sooner. See, this contamination could have been prevented, but nope, there's nothing going on here. There's nothing to see here. Keep moving along, whether it's because they want to kill everybody, whether it's because they're psychos, whether it's because of pride and they wanted to try, they wanted to cover things up. It's unforgivable. And all the people from Japan all the way over to any of these other countries, governments that have turned off the radiation monitors and aren't talking about it, they should all be tried and hung for genocide, because there's a lot of people around this world, not just in this country, but there's a lot of people in this world that are going to die as a result from that event. There's people that already have gotten cancer and died from it, and there are people that will get cancer and die from it. And for years to come. And why? Why? All because they wouldn't fix the frigging problem, and they still haven't fixed it. Their solution after 2 years is to put up a frigging fence in the water. Oh, that'll filter out the particulates and stuff. Really? You expect me to believe that? That's your best job? Is some silt fence? That's the best defense you people have? Well, we really don't have any other way to mitigate this problem. Oh, so you play with a technology that could end all life on Earth and don't have a way to mitigate any of the dangerous problems, and that's okay because of greed and scumbaggery. And no one's pissed off about it because everybody's too worried about the goddamn government shutdown or some other stupid crap. Newsflash, the government shutting down doesn't really affect that much, okay? And if it does start to cause people problems where, their payments are late or this or that, and that is late, then you should do something about it by standing up and getting pissed off. And don't buy into it's the Republicans' fault. I mean, it's the Democrats' fault. No, it's all of their fault. Maybe if they didn't spend money like a 22-year-old girl who just hooked up with some sugar daddy. Maybe if they had a little common sense when spending money, maybe if we didn't give millions of dollars to foreign countries, during this whole thing, they're still giving the Obama administration, it came out today, they're still giving money to foreign countries in the way of foreign aid. So we're giving money to the Congo and to other countries that have child soldiers, which, by the way, is against the law. But we're violating. The Obama administration says it's in the national security interest of the people of this country that we still give money to these, like the Democratic Republic of Congo and all these other countries. So I'm supposed to sit here and watch this country go down the tubes, bridges fall apart, roads in disrepair. Now the government, quote unquote, shuts down. I mean, 3 weeks ago we had money to bomb friggin' Syria, but now we don't. I find that kind of amazing. Where'd that money go? I mean, what would they have done if we had started bombing Syria 3 weeks ago? They just see what they would have done was they just would have passed the debt ceiling because everybody would have been focused on the bombing, and they would have just passed the debt ceiling thing, and this whole fight would have gone by the wayside, right? 3 weeks ago we had the money to bomb Syria. Well, they were talking about we'll lob about 1,000 cruise missiles. We think at $1.5 million a pop, that's a lot of money. Even if they only lobbed 100 cruise missiles. Even one. But hey, we got the money to do that, but we don't have the money to keep parks open. By the way, kudos to the World War II veterans that said, eat it and move the barricades at the World War II memorial. I think it was in D.C. There's the open air memorial, and they went down there and they moved the barricades down. And of course, the park police responded. I don't think they arrested any of them because I didn't see any pictures of that. But I mean, what are you going to do? Arrest 80 and 90-year-old World War II vets for wanting to go down to their the World War II memorial? Who are you, you little punk? They were alive and fighting people before you were even a gleam in your daddy's eye. So kudos to those vets. Hoorah. They didn't care. See, World War II vets, they're awesome. They just don't care. They're a whole different generation. They just moved the gates. They're like, screw off, moved the gates and went in. Because they had it barricaded. Park police had put up barricades with little notices. You can't go in. It's closed due to the government shutdown. See, that kind of stuff, that's spiteful stuff, by the way. Doing that kind of crap, that's spiteful. Threatening old people where, I don't know, we might have to turn off your Social Security. Hey, why don't all you congressmen and senators, how about you don't get paid? How about, Mr. President, you and your administration don't get paid? How about you stop taking vacations? I mean, they got some balls. This guy and his family cost our country last year over $1 billion in travel expenses and his living expenses with him and his family. $1 billion. 4 people. Him, his wife, and his 2 friggin' kids. Over $1 billion. For just them. And he's going to tell you, the government shutdown is because of this, that, and the other thing. We just need more money. Oh, well, so you and your wife can go spend money? Like it's nothing? Like the scumbag senators can give money to whatever organization pays them off on the back end, right? We can still give money to all these foreign friggin' countries, but we can't take care of the elderly. We can't take care of people that are sick. We can't take care of veterans. We can't fix the friggin' bridges and the roads. Oh, but without the state, who will build the roads? Right. I'll tell you who will build the roads. We will, and we'll do a better friggin' job of it. All this while the Pacific Ocean is turning into a day-glow green, nuke nightmare. But hey, don't worry about that. Soon the fish will have 2 heads. Soon, these movies where they have a 100-foot long or 200-foot long shark, everybody's like, oh, science fiction. Don't worry, we irradiated the water. Pretty soon we'll have 100-foot long sharks. That's just great. Well, let's mutate things a little more, because that hasn't, that's always worked out for us in the past. Make whatever preparations you got to. Do what you got to do. Don't eat tuna from the West Coast. I'm not saying it's the end of the world. Anything. Look, it's happening. It's going to happen very slow, but it's irradiated. So it's going to... I'm not trying to scare you, but be on the lookout and be in the know that the tuna coming from the West Coast, and that was a year ago, is confirmed that it's irradiated. So now you at least know. What you do is you have to. Again, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. We have to figure this stuff out because obviously the government's not. and we need to we need them to take this problem a little more serious. We're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. See you all again tomorrow night. My guest is going to be Len Osanek from Black Op Radio. We're talking about the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination, Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty, Len's series, 50 Reasons for 50 Years, and more. Tune in. Love you all. I'm out of here.